Do you ever feel like your soul is quietly asking for something more? Something beyond the rush of days and the weight of routine? That somewhere inside, in the still corners of your heart, there is a longing to reset, to return, to begin again with meaning. As the Islamic New Year quietly unfolds, without fireworks, parties, or glittering countdowns, it offers that exact moment. A subtle, sacred invitation not to change our schedule, but to change ourselves. It is not a loud celebration, but it'll be a silent call from the soul to realign, to turn inward, to walk slowly back to Allah. And maybe, just maybe, this year could be the one where everything changes, not outwardly, but deep within. The Islamic New Year arrives softly. There are no fireworks to announce it, no champagne toasts or midnight countdowns. It enters with quiet dignity, yet within its silence lies immense spiritual potential. While the world marks time with loud celebrations and resolutions focused on fitness goals or financial gains, the Islamic New Year offers something profoundly different, a moment of sacred pause. It is a divine opportunity to look not at the clock, but at the heart. And unlike resolutions that often fade by February, this call to reflection carries eternal weight. The Islamic calendar does not begin with conquest or celebration, but with migration. Hijrah, a journey not toward worldly power, but towards spiritual sanctuary. When the Prophet Muhammad left behind the city of Makkah, his birthplace, his home, the site of immense struggle, he was not seeking luxury or comfort. He was seeking freedom to worship, to build a community rooted in submission to Allah. His journey from Makkah to Medina was not simply physical, it was transformative. And in that choice to leave behind all that was familiar, we are taught the first lesson of the new year. True change begins with sacrifice. But that journey was not his alone. Hijrah is a template for every believer. Not everyone will move cities or across deserts, but every soul must one day migrate from darkness to light, from forgetfulness to remembrance, from sin to surrender. This is the sacred migration that the Islamic New Year invites us to embark on. Not a change of place, but a change of heart. It calls us to ask, what am I clinging to that keeps me from Allah? What am I willing to leave behind so I can draw closer to Him? Every year this moment returns, yet how many times do we let it pass unnoticed? We scroll through timelines, we update calendars, we plan for tasks ahead, but rarely do we stop to examine. What direction is my soul moving in? Am I closer to Allah than I was last year? Or have I drifted slowly, subtly, yet unmistakably? The Islamic New Year asks no loud declarations of change. It simply offers an opening, a door that stands ajar, waiting for the heart that dares to walk through it with humility and hope. The Prophet said, actions are judged by intentions. So if this year begins with a sincere intention to reconnect with our Creator, to realign with our purpose, and to revive our hearts, then that alone becomes a blessed beginning. The calendar is not just a page turned, it becomes a path walked, a sacred shift, a quiet revolution of the heart. When most people hear the word Hijrah, their thoughts rush to the story of the Prophet and his beloved companion Abu Bakr, radiyallahu anh, fleeing persecution under cover of night, seeking refuge in a city that had yet to know them. But Hijrah was never simply about geography. It was about obedience, trust, transformation. It was the moment history turned a corner, not with a sword or a crown, but with footsteps guided by faith. What made that Hijrah sacred was not just the miles traveled, but the heart surrendered. The Prophet left behind everything: family, familiarity, the sacred land of the Kaaba itself, because Allah commanded it. That act of leaving wasn't an escape, it was elevated. And in doing so, He taught us the very essence of true change. It must begin from the heart, and it must be for Allah alone. We all make journeys. Some are visible, changing jobs, cities, relationships, but others are hidden. A man who gives up his addiction in silence, a woman who recommits to her prayers after years of delay, a young person who chooses the harder path because it pleases Allah. These are Hijrah, every act of leaving behind what Allah dislikes and stepping toward what He loves is a migration. And no believer is excluded from this calling. The muhajir, the Prophet said, is the one who leaves what Allah has forbidden. That means every moment you close a sinful tab, hold your tongue in anger, walk away from backbiting, or choose dhikr over distraction, you are performing Hijrah. You are migrating toward Allah. And though the world may never see it, the angels record it, and your Lord rewards it. There is no passport needed, no ticket. Hijrah of the soul begins the moment you realize, I can no longer stay where I am. The place of heedlessness, the comfort of sin, the laziness of the nafs, it is no longer home. You recognize that what you once tolerated now feels unbearable. You want light, and your soul begins to walk. Reflection is how the soul breathes. And in the rush of our lives, meetings, messages, errands, and endless noise, it is easy to live without pausing. But without reflection, we live on autopilot. We repeat routines without realizing if they are nourishing or draining us. And slowly we lose sight of where we are going. As this sacred new year opens, the believer is invited not just to move forward, but to look inward, to sit quietly with themselves, not with judgment, but with gentle honesty. This is the beginning of muhasabah, a sacred self-reckoning, the practice of asking, where am I with Allah? When was the last time I wept in prayer, felt awe at a verse of Quran, or truly feared slipping into sin? And perhaps more importantly, when did I last feel truly loved by my Lord? These are not questions for shame, they are questions for transformation. Allah does not expect perfection. He expects sincerity. And sincerity begins with seeing ourselves clearly. Maybe last year was marked by distraction. Maybe we missed more prayers than we prayed. Maybe the Quran sat unread, our hearts untouched. But reflection does not dwell in guilt. It opens a door to return. In the early generations of Islam, believers would reflect on their actions daily. Umar radiallahu anhu famously said, take account of yourselves before you are taken to account. This was not anxiety, it was awareness. They understood that growth requires feedback, and the greatest feedback comes from the soul's conversation with itself. When we reflect, we start to recognize patterns. We notice what distances us from Allah and what draws us near. Perhaps a certain friendship slowly pulled us toward heedlessness. Perhaps a silent dua in the night rekindled our iman. These discoveries are not coincidences. They are gifts, road signs on the path of faith. And as we reflect, we must be kind to ourselves. Spiritual journeys are never linear. There are rises and falls, light and shadows. Some days the heart feels lifted by every act of worship. Other days, even the simplest prayer feels heavy. This is not failure. This is the rhythm of the soul. Our reflection helps us see this, and more importantly, not give up. Repentance is not a scarlet word. It is a golden bridge. It is one of the most liberating gifts Allah has given us. No matter how far we have strayed, the moment we turn back, He receives us. The moment the heart says, Astaghfirullah, with truth, the slate begins to be wiped clean. Tawbah is not a weakness, it is power. The power to say, I will not let my past define me. The power to say, I choose Allah over this sin. The Prophet taught us that the one who repents from sin is like the one who never sinned. Imagine that. A full reset, a divine mercy unlike any other. But tawbah is not just words. It has a heartbeat. It begins with remorse, not for being caught, but for betraying the one who sees all. It continues with action, abandoning the sin, distancing oneself from triggers, changing environments, seeking help if needed. And it ends with resolve, a firm intention to never return, even if weakness comes again. Because the path is not perfect. The path is persistence. The Quran is filled with the mercy of Allah. Verses that call to the sinner, not with condemnation, but with love. O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. This verse alone is a lifeline. It is not for the righteous. It is for us, the faltering, the struggling, the ashamed. And through repentance, we are lifted from that shame into forgiveness, dignity, and peace. The Prophet was the most pure of creation, yet he sought forgiveness over 70 times a day, not because he sinned, but because he modeled for us the heart's constant return. Tawbah is not only for the fallen, it is the breath of the lover, the one who longs to keep the heart polished, the soul tender, the bond with Allah unbroken. To repent is to rise. It is to say, I am not chained to my worst moment. I am defined by my turning point. And in the sacred silence of the new year, when the world expects nothing and the soul quietly hopes for everything, tawbah becomes the first step in a sacred return home. It begins in the quiet hours, the ones where the world is still asleep and your soul is gently stirring. Faith, or iman, is not always a roaring fire. Sometimes it is a small flame fighting to stay lit. Life surrounds us with distractions, deadlines, expectations, endless scrolling, loud opinions, silent worries. And somewhere between it all, the heart whispers a plea to be remembered. That whisper is your iman calling. It doesn't scream. It waits patiently. And when you choose to listen, when you decide that your faith will no longer be a neglected part of your day, but the center of your life, you begin to awaken something powerful inside. Preserving iman is not about monumental gestures. It is about what you do in the unseen, the unnoticed, the ordinary. A quiet prayer whispered between meetings, a moment of dhikr while washing the dishes. The decision to lower your gaze, even when no one's watching. The choice to walk away from gossip or to forgive someone who never apologized. These moments are small in the eyes of people, but enormous in the sight of Allah. They are bricks laid one by one in the construction of a strong, steady soul. The world tells you to chase more status, more possessions, more validation. But faith tells you to chase depth, not just what you do, but why you do it. Salah becomes more than routine when you slow your breath, still your thoughts, and stand before your Creator, not out of habit, but out of longing. You begin to crave that stillness, that moment where nothing matters but your words and His mercy. And slowly your day starts to bend around your prayers, not the other way around. But it's not easy. Some days you will rush through Salah without feeling a thing. You will open the Quran and your heart may feel numb. You will miss Fajr and feel disappointed. That is not the end. That is the test. Iman is not static. It grows and it fades. What matters is what you do when it fades. Will you chase the feeling or will you chase consistency? The Prophet told us that the best deeds are the ones done consistently, even if they are small. The believer is not the one who never stumbles, but the one who always gets back up. Faith flourishes in intention. Begin your day with a simple niyyah. Ya Allah, today I want to live for you. And then live that intention in how you treat others, how you carry pain, how you manage anger, how you seek forgiveness, how you pause before reacting. That is Iman in action. It is not distant or difficult. It is embedded in your every breath, if you choose to see it that way. The environment you place your soul in matters. Just as plants need good soil, light, and clean water, your heart needs surroundings that nourish belief, a gathering of believers, a study circle that revives your curiosity, a friend who reminds you to pray, a masjid that feels like home. And just as plants can wilt in darkness, your faith can shrink in spaces that drain your spirit. You begin to notice the heaviness of conversations that mock modesty or dismiss faith as naive. You feel the emptiness after hours wasted in content that chips away at your values. And with that awareness, you begin to make changes, not because someone told you to, but because your soul is now more selective about what it lets in. Your habits become your foundation. They don't need to be grand to be sacred. A short surah after every prayer, a daily moment of silence to thank Allah for one thing, sleeping in a state of wudu, saying Bismillah before a meal. These small acts accumulate. They stitch together a spiritual rhythm that begins to define your life, not just on Fridays or during Ramadan, but every single day. And when your faith is steady, your world feels different. Problems still come, but they do not destroy you. You still feel pain, but you no longer face it alone. Your identity becomes clearer. You are not just a student, a parent, an employee. You are a servant of Allah, walking through this world with a purpose anchored in eternity. You begin to live with the peace of knowing that your Creator sees every effort, hears every dua, and rewards every sacrifice, even the ones that left your eyes full of tears and your heart quietly aching. As the new year opens, that sacred flame of Iman, however small, deserves your care. It is your most valuable possession, not your titles, not your wealth, not your reputation. Your faith is the light that will guide you through every darkness ahead. And it begins with one intention: to protect it, nourish it, and live by it, no matter what. The beginning of anything is shaped by the intention behind it. In Islam, intentions are not a formality, they are the heart of the action. A deed without intention is like a body without a soul. And so, as this new chapter of time begins, we are invited not just to hope vaguely for better, but to define what better means in the eyes of Allah. Setting faith-based goals is not about being overly ambitious. It is about realigning our inner compass so that even our smallest steps walk in the direction of Jannah. This process begins with a question we must ask ourselves in honesty and stillness. What kind of believer do I want to become? What do I want my relationship with Allah to look like this year? And where am I now on that journey? From that space of reflection, real goals begin to take shape, not abstract dreams, but real actionable steps. I will pray all 5 prayers on time. I will learn the meaning of Surah Al-Fatiha. I will give sadaqah weekly, even if it's just a coin. I will memorize 1 new dua every month. These goals are not about impressing others. They are between you and the one who sees your struggle and loves your striving. But goals without sincerity become burdens. So we are reminded niyyah, the soul behind the effort. When you wake for Fajr, not out of routine, but because you long to please Allah, that prayer carries weight. When you resist a sin, not out of fear of being judged, but because you care about your standing with your Creator, that resistance is beloved to Him. When your goal is not to seem religious, but to actually grow in sincerity, Allah puts barakah in your journey. He opens unseen doors. He strengthens your resolve. He turns hardship into fuel. Big goals can be overwhelming. That's why the path of the believer is paved with small steps. Start with one verse a day, one sunnah prayer, one good deed you repeat until it becomes part of your character. And when it becomes easy, build on it. In this way, progress becomes sustainable, and the sweetness of accomplishment begins to taste like a sweetness of faith. Support is part of the plan. No one builds alone. Share your goals with someone who will remind you when you forget, encourage you when you stumble, and make dua for you even when you're not around. Whether it's a close friend, a parent, or an online community, the Ummah was made to uplift each other. Even the Prophet had companions. We are not meant to walk this path in isolation. The beauty of faith-based goals is that they make the ordinary sacred. Organizing your time with intention becomes ibadah. Managing your money to include zakat becomes a path to purification. Seeking knowledge becomes a form of worship. Loving your family with patience becomes a form of gratitude. And soon your entire life begins to orbit around one desire: to earn the pleasure of Allah. The Quran and Sunnah are not relics. They are roadmaps. They speak to the soul that wants to change but doesn't know how, to the heart that has slipped and wants to return. They are filled with the stories of people who stumbled, who struggled, who sinned, and who were forgiven, elevated, and transformed. The Quran says, indeed, Allah loves those who are constantly repentant. The Hadith tells us, Allah is with you as long as you remember Him. These aren't distant ideals. They are intimate truths. They are reminders that the one who made your heart knows exactly how to heal it. The Prophet lived renewal. Every dawn brought him back to worship. Every hardship pushed him closer to his Lord. He didn't wait for the perfect moment. He made every moment sacred. His actions, his forgiveness, his patience, his dua, his trust, they weren't rituals, they were renewals. And through him, we learn how to renew our own hearts. When you set your sights on Allah, even the smallest effort becomes blessed. And with every intention you carry, every plan you make for His sake, you plant seeds in a garden you'll walk through one day in Jannah, a garden watered not by perfection, but by sincerity, not by quantity, but by consistency. There is a journey deeper than all others. It has no plane tickets, no passports, no visa stamps. It does not take you across oceans or borders, but it takes you across the hardest terrain known to man, your own ego. The Hijrah of the heart is not glamorous. It is not seen by crowds. It is the silent fight to pull your soul from the comfort of sin toward the discomfort of growth. It is the private war between the nafs and the soul, between desire and discipline, between habits that numb you and ones that heal you. This hijrah begins when you admit to yourself that something must change. You can no longer keep distracting yourself from what you already know. That certain places, certain people, certain patterns, they're pulling you further from who you want to be. And though it may hurt, though it may cost you comfort, you decide, I cannot stay where I am, so you begin. You let go of music that darkens your thoughts. You unfollow what corrupts your gaze. You distance yourself from circles that mock what you're trying to protect. You don't do this out of arrogance. You do it out of mercy to your own soul. You make time for prayer. You learn how to forgive. You apologize more. You stop justifying what you know is wrong. This is Hijrah. Every inch your heart travels closer to Allah. Every tug of war between old desires and new devotion, that is sacred. It is not perfect. You will have days when you relapse, nights when the whispers are loud and your resolve feels weak. But if you keep walking, Allah keeps guiding. If you fall and you rise again, He counts your rising. If you cry from regret, even in secret, He counts your tears. You're not alone. The one you're walking toward is the one who's been waiting for you all along. And the more you migrate toward Him, the more peace you begin to feel. Not loud peace, but a quiet confidence that you're finally living in alignment, that your smile is cleaner, your intentions are purer, your nights carry meaning, your heart is lighter. You didn't just change, you came home. You left what harmed you. You moved toward what heals you, and with every step, He brought you closer. That's the Hijrah of the heart, and it begins with one decision: to no longer settle for distance when nearness is just a turn away. Let me know when you're ready to expand further or adapt this into a new format.